Hello everyone, welcome back. Dom here, and in this video I'm going to show you 5 vocal EQs that will make your vocals sound amazing. Right after this. So this is one of the questions that I'm getting a lot. Dom, what EQ do you recommend for vocals? What EQ do you use for vocals? And to be honest with you, I tried to come up with a list of 5 EQs. I have more that I use for vocals, but these are my top 5, and actually I have a bonus EQ, which is not really an EQ in the end. So let's get started. I'm going to show you all my favorite EQs on this video that I use for vocals. But before we start, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe, let me know what topics you'd like me to do next. I'd like to see you back. And I want to say straight out of the bat that these EQs that I'm going to talk about here are not necessarily corrective EQs, okay? I use a lot of EQs for correcting vocals, for fixing problems like frequency 2 that we have in Cubase, or I'm using FabFilter Pro Q3, also a great EQ for correcting vocals. I'm also using Surfer EQ. Maybe that's a topic for another video, but these EQs that I'm going to show you here today, I use them for boosting more than cutting. I'm using them to add color to my vocals. Okay, so without any further ado, let's talk about the first EQ, the R&D Portico 5033. Now, if you've been following my channel for a while, you'll know that I love my Neves when it comes to vocals. Neve compressors, Neve EQs, I just love them. I think they give you a very specific color, and they're famous for that color, you know? So this EQ is no exception. This is one of my favorite EQs of all time. It's almost like a secret weapon. Nobody talks about it, but you know, it's a very, very beautiful EQ. So let me show you, let me play this vocal, and I'm going to show you what this EQ can do.
Don't know we lost control. We gave every inch of our soul. Don't know we lost control. We gave every inch of our soul.
So the first thing that I'm going to say about this EQ is it just sounds smooth, it sounds creamy, it's almost impossible to make it sound harsh. See how much I'm boosting here? I mean, all these high frequencies, but this is also the signature sound for Neve, you know, you get a lot of this kind of airy, silky sound. It's just beautiful. So what I'm doing here, I'm just cutting a little bit around, I don't know, like 300 hertz, something like that. And I'm just taking out the low end rumble as well. So let's have a listen and let's see how it sounds.
Found home, but I got it wrong. Found love, had to let it go. Don't know where we lost control. We gave every inch of our soul. And I don't know if I have it in me to let somebody in again.
Now, the great thing about this EQ is that no matter what frequency you try and edit, it sounds great, you know? I found that this is one of the EQs that no matter where I boost, it kind of sounds good. So I tend to boost with this EQ rather than cut.
And I don't know if I really believe. And I don't know if I have it in me.
See, it adds this beautiful silkiness, this fairy dust to the vocals. I love the sound of this EQ. And of course, if you have like a low voice and you want to add a little bit of low end like this, it's also great for that as well.
Found home, but I got it wrong. Found love, had to let it go. Don't know where we lost control. We gave every inch of...
And it almost never sounds boomy. I love that. So this is one of the EQs that I will, at some point, on my vocal chain, I'm going to use it sooner or later. Maybe less, maybe more sometimes, but I always like to add this color, especially for female vocals. Now, maybe this is not a very aggressive EQ. It's not like an SSL EQ, you know, maybe I would use it for like pop, synthwave, ethereal vocals, jazz, all these kind of things. Maybe for rock, I would use something different, and I'm gonna show you what. Now, the second EQ is the Mag EQ4 from Plugin Alliance, and this is one of the EQs that I've been using for ages to add a little bit of air, a little bit of presence. Again, very, very similar to the Neve. It has this air band that gives you this beautiful top end, right? Let's have a listen.
Found home, but I got it wrong. Fell in love, had to let it go. Don't know where we lost control. We gave every inch of our soul. And I don't know if I have it in me to let somebody in again. And I don't know if I really believe. And I don't know if I have.
I also like this EQ when I want to create a little bit of a more smiley curve sound to my vocals. You know, maybe they're a little bit nasal and I want to remove this kind of quality from my vocals. So this EQ is really, really good for this.
We gave every inch of our soul. And I don't know if I have it in me to let some.
And I like that it extends up to 40K. It really, really sounds beautiful. You can also add some subs. So for other things like, you know, bass or instruments like this, I'm using this EQ as well. So it fits a lot of purposes there. Now, EQ number 3 is the Tubetech EQs. This again is really good to have in your toolbox when you're processing vocals. Basically, it's the Pultec style EQ. You have your Pultec style program equalizer, and then we also have a separate mid EQ that allows you to carve the mids a little bit, but still it's a very colorful EQ. So let's have a listen.
Found home, but I got it wrong. Fell in love, had to let it go.
See, the vocal is a little bit boomy. It's a little bit like it has a, you know, kind of a blanket on top of it. So now let's remove that blanket with the Tubetech EQ.
Found home, but I got it wrong. Fell in love, had to let it go. Don't know where we lost control. We gave every inch of our soul. And I don't know if I have it in me.
And as you can see, what I'm doing here is I'm removing the low end rumble with the attenuation knob here.
To let somebody in again. And I don't know if I really believe. And I don't know if I have it in me.
So let's listen with and without.
Found home, but I got it wrong. Fell in love, had to let it go. Don't know where we lost control.
And as you can see, I'm doing quite a bit of EQing here in the mids as well. Sometimes when the vocal is a little bit boxy, I like to remove some of the 300s here.
But I got it wrong. Fell in love, had to let it go. Don't know where we lost control.
And it cleans the vocal up really, really nicely. Then if I want to add a little bit of presence, maybe, now I'm going to a very, very high frequency here. So I'm just treating the very, very top end.
Found home, but I got it wrong.
See?
Fell in love, had to let it go.
But sometimes I like to keep this at 16K and then come here and just boost a little bit the 5K area.
Don't know where we lost control. We gave every inch of our soul.
Especially for pop vocals, this is really, really cool because it really allows you to kind of go and focus on that frequency, you know, this presence, you know. Presence for vocals is around like 1K to 7K, but the real presence comes around 5 to 7. So this is when you get intelligibility for your vocals and all these things. So this EQ, really, really nice. And also it's very colorful. Now the next EQ is another big favorite of mine, and it's the AirQ. When this EQ came out, it was a revelation for me. I really, really liked the sound, and I liked how responsive this EQ was. So it's still an amazing EQ, and I use it all the time. The great thing about this EQ, and you will see that it's a common, you know, theme amongst all the EQs that I show you, is the air band. But not only that, this EQ really allows you to shape your vocal sound very, very easily. So let me have a play and let me show you how it sounds.
Don't know where we lost control. We gave every inch of our soul. And I don't know if I have it in me to let somebody in again. And I don't know if I really believe. And I don't know if I have it in me.
And if you use the vocal balance preset, which I found it's very useful, it also gives you an idea of what every band does to your vocal. So for example, this band gives you the body, this band gives you density, presence, brightness, soften, and air. So if you want to soften like a very bright vocal, then this is going to come in handy. And you can also clean up your sound very nicely with this band.
And I don't know if I have it in me to let somebody in again. And I don't know if I really believe. and I don't know if I have it in.
So, beautiful EQ, not only for vocals, for many things. I like that it's very responsive, so when you do a change, you can really feel it. So, I'm going to move on to the next EQ now, and the next EQ is the TRex Master EQ432. Now, this EQ I mostly use for mastering, but in some cases, I love it for vocals. It's very smooth, it's very nice, it projects really nicely. So let me show you.
Found home, but I got it wrong. Found love, had to let it go. Don't know where we lost control. We gave every inch of our soul, and I don't know if I have it in me to let somebody in again. And I don't know if I really believe, and I don't know if I have it in me, and I don't know if I have it in.
So as you can see, I'm boosting 10 dBs here, but it still sounds nice, silky and smooth. And I think for vocals, this is one of the things that you should be careful about, because if you start EQing and you want to add top end to your vocals, which is something that you will want to do unless you're doing like a very kind of retro track or a super dark jazz track or lo-fi, vocals tend to sound more polished, a little bit more upfront when you boost the top end and also the mids. So you want to make sure that the EQ that you're using will not make your vocals sound harsh or piercing or nasal or all these things. This EQ is a safe bet, that's why I like it. And the last plugin that I want to show you today is not really an EQ, but it's so good on vocals that I thought I will include it because it's really good. And this is the Kushlariphonic. Now, warning, this sounds so good that it's very easy to overdo, so try and be very careful with it. If you feel that you go, wow, that sounds very exciting, that sounds great, maybe it's time to dial it back a little bit. It tends to get too much very easily, so a little bit goes a long way, but let me show you what it does.
To let somebody in again, and I don't know if I really believe, and I don't know if I have it in me, and I don't know if I have it in me to let somebody in again, and I don't know if I really.
It's really good. I mean, this is one of the tricks that I use if I have a vocal that's very dark, it's a little bit subdued, it doesn't cut through the mix. The clariphonic is one of those things that can add nice mid-range to a vocal. Because it's a parallel equalizer, it sounds a little bit different than a normal EQ. And then you also have the sheen, you know, the shimmer and the silk. Very nice sound. Let's have a listen to the difference.
Found home, but I got it wrong. Found love, had to let it go. Don't know where we lost control. We gave every inch of our soul, and I don't know if I have it in me to let somebody in again. And I don't know if I really believe, and I don't know if I have it in me.
So, yeah. The Kushlariphonic is a secret weapon. Like pretty much all of the EQs that I showed you here today, the most important thing for me is that the EQ doesn't bring out any bad qualities of the vocal. And I know it's just boosting frequencies, you know, it's just, okay, what is it? We're just boosting frequencies here and there, but it's about the curve, it's about the way that the EQ boost works on every one of these plugins that make them sound different. And don't get me wrong, I use a lot of other plugins for, you know, cutting and making sure that the vocals sound really nice and balanced. And that's equally important, but when it comes to boosting and making vocals sound a little bit more beautiful, a little bit more produced, these are the plugins that I'm using in the box. Of course, I'm using some outboard stuff as well for vocals, but I think you have to check those out. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed this, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with anyone you think they might find it useful or entertaining. Thank you so much, my friend, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.